Thank you to our Digital Transformation Forum sponsor, Xledger.
Hello and welcome to the first of 3 sessions hosted by Xledger today. My name is Rosalie Tenge. I am partner and channel manager at Xledger, and I'm joined here today by my colleague Peter Hucker.
Thanks, Rose. My name's Peter. I'm a chartered accountant and senior consultant at Xledger UK.
In this first session, we will be talking to you what to do when your client outgrows your bookkeeping system and how you can make sure that you can still serve your clients as they grow themselves. In the next 25 minutes or so, we will be answering 4 questions. First of all, who is Xledger? Why are we the ones talking to you today? I'll be giving you a short introduction on Xledger and tell you where we sit in the accountancy software market. Then Peter will be talking to you if you actually have, whether you have clients that are requiring a mid-market solution and how you can actually identify whether your clients are ready to move, and also whether or not you should work with larger clients. What is in it for you, and why do we believe that you should actually tap into this market? And the last question that we're going to answer is, how can you make it affordable for your clients? You have identified clients that are ready for mid-market accountancy software. You've also realized that you want to work with larger clients, but how can you make that profitable for yourself and at the same time keep it affordable for your clients? Because there are perceptions out there that mid-market software is far too expensive and too complex for your clients' needs, which honestly doesn't have to be that way. So we'll be answering that question as well. But before I start introducing Xledger in more detail, I would like to take a few minutes just to talk about the insourcing risk. And the insourcing risk is the risk that you have as a business process outsourcing company, that your client leaves you because they would like to insource their finance function. As you can tell, I'm not native British, and what I have seen working with UK-based accountancy firms compared to other European countries is that it seems that the cut-off size of a client that you're servicing is different from the size of clients that in continental Europe are being serviced. If you, for example, look at Norway, the size of clients over there is much bigger than the clients in the UK market. And it almost seems inevitable that when a client grows a certain size, they decide to insource. So if you look at the graph, you see on the bottom line, you see the size of clients. So as they grow, naturally, their complexity of requirements grow. And there is this zone, if you will, where clients get into where they are wondering whether or not they actually want to insource because they can't get the reporting out or the functionality out of a BPO that they require. I think it's here where you, as a business process outsourcer, has the opportunity to actually tap into this market. Because often this is not a decision made because it's cheaper for them to insource, because it can be quite expensive to insource a finance function, but it's more because they require more complex reporting or want to retain more insights. And if you could be offering that to them because they are growing their sizes and you can offer them a service or a solution that offers those requirements whilst you are serving them, you can actually keep them on or attract new clients and serve them as they grow. So that's really what I wanted to share with you before we jump into the actual content. And as I promised, I will start off with an introduction on Xledger and why we are talking to you today. So Xledger was founded in 2001 by a group of entrepreneurs spearheaded by Jarle Sky, who were thinking about the accountancy software market and really thought that the way it was going wasn't how they perceived the future to be. So they are really spearheading the true cloud solutions that we see in the market today. And in those almost 20 years, we have grown rapidly, seeing that we currently have offices in 4 different countries, servicing over 10,000 clients in 60 countries worldwide. And with TrueCloud, you might be familiar with it because the likes of Xero and QuickBooks also have TrueCloud technology. So that basically means that you do not have to host anything or provide any maintenance on any servers, for example, on behalf of your clients. But what Xledger offers you is actually more complex and more extended functionality. So it is the best of both worlds. You are familiar with TrueCloud and you can get more of it. And when Xledger was founded, we were really founded on the perception that we work with partners. So we work with lots of partners worldwide, over 70 at the moment, and it can be global partners such as BDO and PwC, but also quite localized partners that have specialized in a certain vertical or in a certain geographical area. So it doesn't matter the size of your business, the size of your accountancy firm. We are familiar with working with partners from all different sizes. And so if you are interested, please let us know. I'm more than happy to have a follow-up conversation with you. Now, where do we sit in the accountancy software landscape? If you have on the one hand, you have the Xeros and the QuickBooks, so the smaller enterprise softwares, and all the way on the other hand, you have the Oracles and the really big in-house on-premise solutions. There is this massive gap in between where you have clients that might be outgrowing Xero, but obviously don't want to have anything in-house. They are not the multinationals with tens of thousands of employees. They're somewhere in this massive space that's called mid-market. And that is where Xledger sits. Now, it's not as siloed as I'm showing you on the picture now. It's not that there is a straight line or a clear cutoff when people are outgrowing Xero and should move to a mid-market provider, as well as when they should go from mid-market to large market. It looks actually more like this. So there is this zone, if you will, where there's overlap. And that's also exactly the zone that I mentioned before, where you have the zone, the risk of insourcing. So many business process outsourcers actually use Xero, which is a great tool, which is a great solution to service small customers. But once your clients are growing, there's nothing there to add what you can offer. So instead of risking them to in-source, you can actually offer them something new and grow with them as they become like this really mid-market organization. And now I'm going to give the words to my colleague Peter, who will be talking to you about whether or not your client actually needs a mid-market finance solution.
So we need to look at, does my client need a mid-market finance system? And I think there are many reasons out there why a client might choose a mid-market finance system. But we'll concentrate on some of the main areas today. So one of the primary reasons why a client might need a mid-market finance system is due to their reporting demands. So we know as clients grow, they need to utilize reporting more as a tool for providing visibility and control than perhaps something just for external stakeholders, such as the VAT man and for statutory reporting. And I think a good example or factor of noticing that your client is starting to need financial information for those purposes is, are they starting to complain about the timeliness of reports? Do they really need that on a timely basis? And are they starting to say, can you give me a greater understanding or analysis of these numbers? Because that's really a warning sign that they need more analysis into those numbers. I think another thing to look for is, as clients grow, so does the complexity of their reporting. So they might add multiple revenue streams, or might need to analyze their numbers by certain cost centers or projects, or against budgets. And there becomes a point where you might not be able to get that reporting directly out of your system. So if you're producing in Excel, that can be fine, but it also can lead to multiple versions of the truth, chances for formula error, and of course, you don't get all the additional benefits of being able to utilize a report directly in the system, such as the ability to drill down, build confidence over those numbers, and of course, the ability to go back to the supporting documentation which sits alongside those numbers. The second reason is too many systems. So we know that as clients grow, their technical requirements become more complex. So they might need a purchase order system or an expenses system or fixed assets or in-system workflow. And with all of these things, that adds to the overall complexity of their solution. And I think that companies like Xero have been fantastic in showing us that where there might not be a solution directly in the system, you can add a third-party bolt-on to provide that functional need. However, you might find that when a client gets to a certain point, that their solution just becomes too complex and there's too many vendors. So that's the point where you might look for a mid-market finance system which can provide all of that functionality in one place, all working the same seamlessly with the same look and feel. Multi-entity, so speaks for itself really. When clients get bigger, they might have multiple entities and have a requirement to report both at a consolidated level and an individual statutory level. Of course, this can be done via Excel. Certainly when I was a financial controller, that's the way that I used to do it. The problem, of course, is, of course, you have all those things around multiple versions of the truth, but it's things like last minute adjustments. So someone needs to post through a last minute adjustment after you've done the consolidation. So you have to post that back in the finance system and run the whole thing again, where it just adds additional complexity to your reporting process. So if you do have a client with multi-entity and you want to create a live report consolidation directly in your system, then you might want to look at a mid-market finance system. Next, configurable roles. So we know as clients grow, they have a greater demand for more people to access that system. That might be for greater demand to access that system. That might be for employees who need to access it for purchase orders or expenses. It might be for individual budget holders to consume that information. And I think we also know that as organizations grow, we also need to add more systems and controls in place to reduce the risk of fraud and error or inappropriate access to various information within that system. So a couple of things to look out for is does your client require different people to access the system with different access rights, and do the access rights available within their existing system provide the appropriate levels of control? Next, multiple budget holders. So we know that as organizations become more complex, they most likely will hire multiple budget holders to help them control that organization and manage different budgets. So, does the client have multiple budget holders? Again, this can be done with Excel, but the more budget holders we have, the more reports that we need to produce, the more time that's taken to produce and disseminate those reports. Also, from our budget holders' perspective, they're looking for information that's live as possible and do Excel reports on a monthly basis provide them with that information necessary for agile decision making. So, one of the things that a mid-market finance system can provide is budget holder dashboards where you can log in and only see that information. We do have another session on live reporting, so if you're interested in that for budget holders, please do join that session. Thanks. And finally, high transaction volume. So I think we see this, as clients grow, ultimately the number of transactions that they're likely to process grows with it. I think we also see that, in certain industries. We know that certain industries are more prone to higher volumes of transactions. Look for a couple of things there. Can my client system cope with the volumes of transactions, either from a technical perspective or from a commercial perspective? Are there any compromises needing to be made over the level of the transactional data that you're bringing into the system? So are you having to aggregate transactions when you're bringing them into the system? And is that having a knock-on consequence for things like reporting? And also, on a more practical level, if you're having lots of transactions come into the system, does that mean that there would be a lot of value added from automating those transactions? So that's a couple of reasons why a client might choose a mid-market finance system. What we're going to do now in our next section is look at why accountancy practices should work with larger clients. So I think there are a couple of facets to this. First of all, I think that clients, when they get larger, see more value in the information that's being provided. So information's no longer a tool for just external stakeholder reporting, like statutory reporting. It is, as we said previously, a tool for providing visibility and control. And if we can provide information to them on a timely basis, they certainly see more value in that information and become a lot less price sensitive. I also think when it comes to mid-market clients, there's a much greater demand for value-added services. So they become more complex in their needs. They need certain advisory services, can afford certain advisory services, but might not necessarily be at the size yet where they have those skills in-house. And finally, lower back office costs. I think we know intuitively that it is easier from a back office perspective to deal with 10 larger clients than 100 smaller clients. And that's, multiple reasons. That's lower cost of sale, just the admin costs associated with dealing with lots of clients. And of course, things like debt collection from a small amount of clients. So I hope that's just a couple of reasons which hopefully get you thinking about why you might want to work with larger clients. And now we're going to hand back to Rose, who's going to talk to you about can my client afford mid-market software? Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. So we've been looking so far at how you can identify whether or not your clients are ready for mid-market accounting software, and why we actually believe that you should tap into this market of clients that are ready for this. And most importantly, I guess the question in everybody's mind is, okay, great, but can my client actually afford this mid-market accountancy software? And there are a few perceptions out in the world, if you will say, that I would like to address. So first of all, the perception is that there is a big gap between small and mid-market software, that there is a clear line that clients are fine within the small market software that they are currently using and shouldn't transition until that explodes, if you will. But if you remember that slide where I had the three bubbles where Xero, Xledger, and an Oracle were next to each other, they actually overlap. So there isn't necessarily a gap there. There is just a zone where you have overlap. And that's exactly that zone that you need to be mindful of, making sure that you're not too late and miss the boat when your clients decide to insource it. Secondly, people will think it is much more expensive. And yes, it might be a bit more expensive than a small enterprise software provider, but at the same time, your clients will get so much more back for it. Your clients are growing, so their requirements are much more complex and their needs are more complex than they can actually fulfill with a small enterprise software and all the bolt-ons. So they will be paying more, but at the same time, they will be getting so much more back. And if in a world where time is money, it probably actually balances out, if not is better for them. Thirdly, people think mid-market software is way too complex, that there's way too many things in the software that they actually need. However, if you think about it, people only know what they know. So if you start introducing them to mid-market software and start introducing them to all the possibilities that are out there, they will come to the realization that there is much more that they can actually do within one piece of software. And therefore the complexity is not that daunting. And lastly, people think it requires way too much training, that is small enterprise software is quite easy to use. It's also familiar to them. They're fine with it. They are happy with how it works. And changing to a new system is going to cost them time to understand it and train people and train staff. But if you as a partner provide the service, so you make sure that they not insource their finance function, but they actually stay with you, they will start using a different platform, but they don't have to train that much because you'll be doing all the work for them. So you can actually take that perception away from them as well and make it much more interesting for them. So one of the things that we are offering to help you overcome this perception and help you make sure that it is affordable for your clients and at the same time profitable for yourself is providing a hierarchy structure. So to understand the hierarchy structure, Pete is going to explain to you how it works from a technical perspective.
Okay, thanks, Rose. So with system hierarchy, entities and holding companies are built in a hierarchy. So you might have individual client entities sitting at the bottom of the tree. If those clients are multi-entity, then they might have a holding company that sits above their entities for consolidation perspective. And right at the top, you might have a service center which collates all of the information across the entire group. So there's a couple of really important things about system hierarchy. Firstly, configuration roles down. So if you turn that on in the service center, that would be turned on in all of the entities below. You could set up a chart of accounts in the service center and it would appear in all of the entities below. It works with cost centers, suppliers, customers, everything that you do at a service center rolls down below, and then you can just tweak what you don't need in each individual entity. The other really important thing about system hierarchy is that data rolls up. So if you post a transaction in one of the entities, that transaction also exists in the holding company and service center, forming the basis of a live consolidation. The other really important thing about a system hierarchy is because those transactions exist in the holding companies and service centers, you can also process those transactions in those entities. So you could sit in a service center and you could process all of the purchase invoices that have come into the system. Or you could sit in the service center and sign off all of the purchase orders that relate to in the system. I think what this does with system hierarchy is break down the economies, the barriers that are created of having to go into each individual system one at a time, and that sort of facilitates economies of scale. I'm now going to hand back to Rose, who's going to talk to us about how that applies to the partner market.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Thanks for that explanation. That's really, really good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you how that will work from a partner hierarchy structure. So as you can see, it's exactly the same layout as Pete has just shown us, but I've changed the wording a little bit. So you will have a partner domain sitting at the top, and you can either decide to have clients directly underneath that and service them from your partner domain or go into their holding. Or you can have clients sitting under a certain vertical. So you would have a vertical if you are specialized in, say, for example, a charity or hospitality or education, where all your clients in that particular vertical sit. So they all have the same baseline, say the same 80% of functionality is equal amongst all those clients. And they all might have their own special requirements, and that's absolutely fine. But what we see with our partners right now is that within that vertical, they create a demo environment. And if you then want to onboard a new client, you can show them that demo environment and say to them, listen, you're in this particular vertical. I have expertise in this vertical. This is what you're going to use. Is there anything that you would like changing? So the client immediately, when you are showing it to them, see that you have expertise in their field, and also see how it's going to look like for them. So it's very easy to then scale your clients, because when you do want to onboard them, it's very easy to make a copy of the demo environment for them. So 80% is done. You make the tweaks for them because you know exactly what they want, and you're off and running. So the implementation time is much, much shorter, and the required time and effort that you need to put in to make them go live is also limited. And therefore, you can actually very easily scale your business, adding many new clients without putting in all the time and effort that it would take to normally have it in-house and implement it on their end. Meaning that it's cheaper for them, and also more affordable for them, and more profitable for you. To give you an overview of what it would cost normally versus what a partner could charge, is that if a client would in-house it, can cost them anywhere between 20 to 40K to implement a mid-market accounting software. But if you do it through this model, through this partner hierarchy model, we have partners that charge between 5 to 7K just to get it implemented and then get started. So you can see it's much more interesting, or it's much more interesting for them to do it through yourselves. You can really add benefits to them, and at the same time, they don't have to in-house it. They don't have to have anybody in the finance team. You can still offer the services, and you can grow with them as they grow, and you really take away their worries. So that's really how the partner hierarchy works. So in summary, where I would like to end with are the 4 questions that we started off the session with. So first of all, who is Xledger? Xledger is a true cloud mid-market accounting software provider. Do your clients require a mid-market solution? They do potentially. And to ensure your clients don't leave you as they grow, look out for those trigger points that Pete mentioned earlier, and see if you can help them make this transition. And why should you work with larger clients? Well, it gives you higher margins, there's potential for cross-selling, and there are reduced back office costs. And lastly, how do I keep it affordable to my clients? By leveraging the system hierarchy system we showed you. If you would like to have more information on the information that we showed you today about the hierarchy structure, about Xledger, or about the information given to you by Peter, please let us know, send us an email or drop a line in the box, and we are more than happy to come back to you at a later stage. Have a great day, and thank you very much.
And thanks from me too. Have a great day.